Welcome back, all our 40K fanatics out there. I'm DJ.
I'm Lane.
And we're here with Tim's Nation to recline, relax, and talk about our tournament. We just went to Battlegrounds and Board Games, was it?
Yes.
Yes, Battlegrounds and Board Games. And it was an RTT, was it not?
Why are you getting these confirmations from me? Yes. You know where you were at on Saturday.
Okay. Well, and who won that thing, by the way?
Why are you?
That's right. The Necron champion wins it all once again. That's why I get to hold the title belt over on this video, because not only did I win the tournament, I ran into Lane on my path to glory.
First time ever in a tournament.
First time ever in a tournament.
Well,
and my response after that game, after the game that I played against Lane, was I had to actually go find ibuprofen. That one crushed me.
I mean, when we play, we're always thinking hard, but when it's in a tournament and you're playing against a good player, it's exhausting. My first game was against
for that one.
My first game was against Roger. I did win against him, but he's a really good player, and so it took a lot of effort and energy. And then game two was into DJ. It's like, oh my god, I got to think more. And I think you pointed out that I was not very talkative during the game because I was just so focused.
I loved it. I love that moment.
I was laser focused.
We'll throw the picture up there too. Picture of that Lane took for the channel on that. Very nice. So today we decided we would just recline back and take it easy because we had one heck of a weekend. Lane also had some league games too. So wanted to take a breather, talk about the tournament.
I mean, to be fair, I also came in 5th place out of 25. Got a little bit of store credit because at Battlegrounds, the board games,
I'll hit Rob for that one. There you go.
There you go. Yep. They do. If you ever have the opportunity to go to Battlegrounds and Board Games for a tournament, do it because they're very generous with the prize support. They usually have enough people show up that they pay out the first top 5 players. There's a couple paint prizes, and they do some door prizes and stuff. So they're very generous with giving out. So even though I came in 5th because I had a loss because there were 3 undefeated, still managed to get a little bit of prize money, a little prize support, a little store credit there. So thanks to Battlegrounds and Board Games for that. So I did all right. I did all right.
Yeah, no, definitely shout out. We'll talk about Battlegrounds and Board Games. I want to talk about that before we go into it. This is going to be one of a couple videos that we decided to record today because there's a lot that went on today this weekend. You know, we had the data slate changes, point changes, and the new cards for the missions were released. So if you guys are interested to hear our opinions on the cards and how we felt those are going to be attached to the tournament, stay tuned this week. We're going to be throwing those out there. We're going to have a separate video talking about just the cards and the missions. We're going to go through them all and just discuss each one of them, how they felt in the tournament, because that was unique and interesting and weird, especially the point costs that you score for some of those too. It was kind of very odd, though. This one's 4 points, this one's 5, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it used to be that if you got the mini version of 2 things, it would be 6 points, 3 points for a mini one, 3 points for a mini here. And now the minis are 2 points. So even if you score 2, it's only 4 points, which doesn't feel like a whole lot in a battle round. Even if you're scoring things out there, doing things, cleanse on one objective, it's only 2 points. It just doesn't feel like very much.
But at the same time, and the opposite of it too is there was a lot of secondaries in Leviathan that you would do a part of it and you'd get nothing.
Yeah.
So it's a definite interesting aspect, and we'll get more.
Yeah,
into
we'll get into that. We'll
definitely
talk about our games here for the tournament, and then we'll do a separate video about
and the data slates. I've been wanting to get Lane over here, so we're going to go through them all, talk about them. We're actually going to go through all of the data slate updates, and we'll give our best opinion. There's some armies that we're not as familiar with that we don't play as much. One that was commented about was Tyranids, which actually we did get some time to talk to some people who were playing Tyranids and hear a little bit. I did, at least, to hear some of the feelings on how Tyranids look going forward.
Sure, I am not qualified to speak on Tyranids. So
that one is one that's had a lot of attention because Tyranids were one of the early books to come out, and they, usually when a new codex comes out, typically that codex is strong and has a lot of strength to it initially. And Tyranids really never saw their moment in the sun.
Yeah, 10th edition, I think, has been a rough edition so far for Tyranids. They definitely had some strength in 9th edition with the Crusher Stampede. There were times it was very hot, but I think it's a tough time for Tyranids right now. So.
Well, Crusher Stampede was just broken. I ran that for a hot minute, and you couldn't. I was winning games, and it was you can't stop it. Now, granted, the Crusher there was a difference. If you ran Crusher Stampede Codex, you were beatable. As soon as you started putting in Forge World monsters in there, there was no stopping it. I think there were some that were running 3 of the Democurons, and those were just it was done. You just weren't doing any damage at that point. So, but again, that's what we're going to do later on. First and foremost, yes, battlegrounds and board games we head out to, and talk about the store a little bit there. There's some events that we go to and some stores we go to that you always look into. One thing, I made a comment to one of our buddies, and he actually thought I was being sarcastic at the time when I said, "Oh man, look at that carpet." And then when he thought I was being sarcastic, I'm like, "No, I'm being serious. That was a fully carpeted event hall that is so nice on the back."
I have been in some very loud event halls, where
Yes.
they echo really bad. I've played games in like basically warehouses with like just a steel roof, and it starts raining. You have to shout at your opponents the whole time.
Yep.
I personally
Oh, I
feel
remember
like,
that. I know what you're talking about, actually.
yeah,
Yeah.
but I personally feel like uh, when I go to a tournament, for me, it's like a mini vacation. These are my vacations. These are what I do. So I
Yep.
really pay attention to quality of life stuff. So battlegrounds and board games I love because uh, there's enough space there.
Very much so.
I've been to some stores where you're just rubbing into guys all day long because they don't have the space. There's enough space that you can move around tables. Actually, my third game, we had a hammer and anvil, and the table was up against the wall, and we had plenty of room to move it out there, so we didn't have to be reaching across the table so much. Plenty of space, carpeted, so it's not loud. There's no echoes. There's 3 bathrooms there, so there's always a bathroom that's open. And the terrain is excellent. They really paid good attention to the terrain because the terrain is all themed. If it's a snowy mat, well, all the terrain has snow on it. It's all themed and consistent there. So, and again, I mentioned the store credit before. When you play in a tournament, they pay out usually the top 5 places because they have enough people. They usually have 25 to 30 people.
Yeah,
RTT,
no, definitely.
So.
And then on top of that, with the 25 to 30 people that they usually have, like you said, it's a strong environment there. Like there are some players who are the newer players, and just getting their feet wet in competitive Warhammer and want to see what it's about, and just got everything put together. But then there's players that really hammer it hard. We went up there. Zach, our buddy Zach, was up there too with us. Rob, who you said you played in the first round. Roger, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Roger, you played in the first round. So we got him. You also had Griff and his Grey Knights.
Nathan McKinney's there.
Yeah, yeah. And then, Josh Minnick is often frequents there with Sam and all those guys. So there is a lot of, and I know a lot of these names, everyone's like, who are they talking about?
Obviously, the most famous Warhammer players in Cleveland.
Obviously, yes. Yeah. If you don't know who they are, you obviously don't live in Northeast Ohio.
Right.
So, but regardless, these are some very, very strong players that we travel a lot to with different GTs and stuff like that. And this is where we go. This is, I would have to say this is probably one of the more competitive practice grounds, especially for getting ready for a major event.
Well, also because
the prize
with 3 rounds and 25 to 30 people, there are multiple people undefeated. So you won, but there were 3 undefeated people. So you had the best score out of 3 undefeated. So you don't just win just by winning 3 games. There's enough people there that the scoring matters. So you're not just like, if I win a game, I won. Like there were a whole bunch of people like myself that were 2-1. So my scores were just good enough that I was, the top 5. But you have enough people that it really differentiates who's doing better because there are so many people playing.
Not to mention, Battlegrounds and Board Games is run by Warhammer players, and they have their own Warhammer team, and they compete and travel around. So these guys are paying attention to that competitive side at a higher level than some other stores may, where they have to have a TO come in from the outside to do this. These guys understand more what we're looking for. Not to say that other stores don't, but this is a store that definitely, when you go down that card of to check all the boxes of what you're looking for in a tournament, they definitely have the box checked for. They understand the competitive 40K realm because they are a part of the competitive 40K realm. So
I've played. The 2 owners, Brandon and Ed. I've played them both in other tournaments at other stores. They don't play on their own tournaments at their own stores, but I've played them both at other tournaments multiple times. So they're players.
Brandon too. I love Brandon. He's a fellow AdMech player, so we have some conversations about that as well. So, and also a last thing that I'll throw out there with Battlegrounds and Board Games, which I love, they have a trade-in program. they have a very nice trade-in program. They're not going to just take everything that you throw at them. They're looking for clean stuff, new
They
stuff,
are
and everything else.
discerning. They will not take everything you throw at them.
Right. But they do have a trade-in program. So when you go up there for that event to take some models with you, trade them in, get some store credit on top of it, always nice. I was able to exchange some stuff out that I wasn't using, that I don't plan on using, and actually clean up the Necrons a bit so I can get some getting the new sculpts of the spiders ready.
No more metal spiders on the table?
I mean, listen. I might throw down the metal spiders. Got to throw it to the classics and that stuff. We might have like a classic game where it's pewter only.
Right.
Between the two of us, I think we could both field a pewter only or a first edition print only army, because there's some Necron stuff that wasn't pewter ever for a first print.
Mm-hmm.
But at that same time, we have I want to get them all those neat, cool sculpts and everything like that. So that'll be
all consistent though. All
exactly.
Sculpts,
Exactly.
So, yeah.
All right.
Tournament
time. Yeah. So, round, we get there. We show up, we sign in, we get situated, and we get paired to our tables. In round one, you're facing Roger.
Roger is my nemesis. I don't know if Roger knows this or not. This would be the fourth time, I think, that Roger and I have played in tournaments, and he won all three of the first games. So, all three of the previous games that we have played. Roger's a good guy. He's always at Battlegrounds and board games. But he's played typically demons. He has played Blood Angels in the past, but today we started off. I went first, which I didn't want to do against demons because they can uppy downy. Turn one, they have uppy downy abilities, and he had a bunch of big demons and a few flamers, a few nurglings out on the table. Because again, even though we were playing the new missions, we were using the old previous balanced data sheet, so the nurglings could still do actions and stuff. But he had a great unclean one. He had Shalaxi. He had Bellicor. He had Lord of Change, the big dumb bird. One of the Defiler type things. I don't think it's called the Defiler in Demons, but the
Soul Grinder.
Okay, yeah, and then also Celeste, and then just a bunch of little trash things to score objectives, some flamers and that sort of thing that can deep strike, and some nurglings. Yeah, turn one, I went first and managed to successfully destroy one squad of nurglings. Not great for my first turn. Usually I'm going for a little more damage output. And then he went second. So on his first turn, he at the end of my turn, he picked up Bellicor and Shalaxi, drops in Bellicor, and then Shalaxi can be 6 inches away from my Devastator Centurions, and she charged into him turn one. That's not what I want, guys. The good news is with Armor Contempt and just their toughness is 7, they actually managed to tank it a little bit. Only 2 of them died. So on the slap back in my turn, I popped off my Tome of Ectoclades. Roger really, the demons can move really quickly. So it was really blocking out what I could do as far as where I could deep strike in my Eradicators, where I could put my drop pods with the Stern Guard in. So it was really tough picking my Tome targets. I ended up going for the Lord of Change and Bellicor. Shalaxi, I just couldn't get enough target eyes on her to shoot her really well. And she is super strong and super durable, so I knew she was going to be a problem. But I did pick up the Lord of Change. I did pick up a Bellicor in the Tome turn, so the Dev Watch does its thing, and we don't care if you have invulns or whatever. And those 2 models did not have any kind of feel no pain, so I was able to chew through both of those quickly. The Eradicators got to throw a couple shots at Shalaxi, but she has 20 wounds, a 4-up invuln, and a 5-up feel no pain, and she is hard to hurt. So I think I did 4 wounds to her, or 6 wounds. She was down to 14 wounds. So good damage, but still he had a lot of board presence. I was worried about what was going to happen for the rest of that game. Killing 2 big things is good, again, but he's just pushing everything up the table at me. So on his turn, he moved Shalaxi, and I did Overwatch her and had... Okay, so I had popped off my Sustain, so Sustain was active. She moved right in front of the Eradicators, so she was in Melter range, so I overwatched the Eradicators. Of course, they always reroll all hits, wounds, and damage, and anytime they make a ranged attack, so even Overwatch. They had lethals because of the Apothecary attached to them, Sustain because that was my army rule going on that turn. I picked up the dice, rolled them. I got 2 6s. Good start. I got to re-roll them. I got 4 more 6s. So off of 8 dice with the re-rolls, I got 6 6s, which means 6 lethals and then 6 more hits that I rolled wounds for. So I ended up doing 10 wounds. He actually made 6 of the saves, so only 4 got through. But melt range and the combination of the rerolling the dice, I did 27 damage to Shalaxi. She had 14 wounds left, rolled her feel no pains, and 16 of them got through. It's probably the most powerful Overwatch I've ever had, just with some 6s. And as Roger and I agreed, obviously, it was, if I did not roll that hot, it's a different game because Shalaxi can wreck really hard.
Oh, yeah,
but yeah, that pretty much sealed the deal there because she was dead on his turn. And then it was just me, and that left my dev sense alone because I had fallen back from them. So 4 dev sense were still able to start doing shooting. Eradicator still able to shoot on my turn. Really just swung the game there. Obviously a big swing on dice though. So, but I finally got my first win against Roger. So he's no longer my nemesis. I don't know if I have a nemesis right now because pretty even. No, it's not you. I've beaten you plenty of times. You probably beat me more times than I have you, but that. I don't have anyone else that I have
undefeated. I'm currently undefeated against Lane in tournaments.
Okay, congratulations.
Here's my 3 questions.
Mm-hmm.
Number 1, what was the final score? Do you remember?
Oh, I had 95. I think I shut him down to 50 something. I don't remember. I don't want to say it might have been better.
I don't want
to disparage him. Yeah, I had 95 though. I know because I was just able to dominate the primaries at that point. And
now the second question, and that segues into the primaries. This mission, one of the things I didn't mention, we did the one where you terraform objectives. Was the first mission we got to play. Did you terraform any objectives?
No, because terraforming you have to survive through your opponent's turn.
Yep, till the end of your opponent's turn.
And obviously, if I put anything in the middle of the table with demons, he's just going to steamroll over them. He did terraform with the Great Unclean One. The Great Unclean One went up and sat on an objective and just terraformed.
Yeah, I bet he did. That terraform was a picture of its big old booty.
Yeah, he made an imprint. He made a form there. Yeah, so he was able to. I had played one game with Zach the night before where we did the terraform one. And it can be a trap. Obviously, it's a powerful thing if you successfully do it, but you have to, you go on an objective in no man's land, do an action, but you have to survive through the end of your opponent's turn. And a lot of times that's really tricky to do. You can't put cheap trash out there to do it because it just gets picked up. Unless you can hide on an objective and not be seen or anything, or far enough away not to get shot. But if you do that with, scout squads or something little like that, or a 5-man warp spiders or something that moved out there, if they get picked up, it was useless. You just lost your thing and didn't do the terraforming. You still score all right. I think it's 4 points per. Mm-hmm. It's still 4 points per prime objective. So I maxed out secondaries. I forgot to say I did take fixed secondaries, bring it down, and assassinate.
Because a lot of the demons are characters too.
Yeah, they're all everything except the Soul Grinder are all characters, and Celeste pops back up after you kill Celeste, so I get double the points. So I easily maxed out secondaries there. So yeah, even without terraforming, I still scored 45 on primaries. So yeah, still went pretty well. So that was my game with Roger. It was a big victory for me, a moral victory that I finally defeated him on the 4th try. So how was your first game?
So my first game, I got to play against Tyranids, and my game was pretty simple. He went forward to middle. I went first. I went forward to middle. Then he went and pushed his entire army in the middle, and then I ran over it all. So
what kind of critters? I have not played against Tyranids in 10th, so I don't really know.
So this is where we start to get into the realm of being able to talk about Tyranids. So I was able to talk to him a bit about this. He had a list very similar to what you would expect. I don't know if this is going to be the Meta Crusher Stampede, but Crusher in an ideal. It was big bugs.
Big bugs.
We had 2 Haruspecs, 2 Tyrannifex, the Norn, Emissary, Hive Tyrant, Swarm Lord, Malceptor, 2 of the Neurolictors, a Death Leaper, and a 10-man squad of Gaunts. So he had 3 options to be able to infiltrate and get out there early. I went first. So to the opposite of your terraforming, what I did was I actually used terraforming as a bait and switch. So I moved my Wraiths out there and put 1 Wraith right on the tip of those 2 objectives on my left and center flank. I completely deployed, leaving the right flank alone. He had a Haruspex, a Neuro Lictor, and a um, the Tyrannifex that went up on that objective, and I'm just like, you know what? This is a chunk of big bugs that's now not even going to be part of this game, and I'm just going to focus on center and the left.
Mm-hmm.
So I went over to the. So when I went up into the center, I moved the wraiths, and I just barely touched the objective, and said, "All right, I'm going to move up here. I'm going to start terraforming these two." So now, the thing about terraforming is once it's done, it's done. You can't unterraform something.
Right. Even if you don't control it, you still score 2 points every turn for having terraformed it.
So if my opponent doesn't come up and answer that, he's gonna then you're giving me 2 points recycling every turn.
Basically, if you do that turn 1, you're going to get 8 points throughout the game,
from
regardless
that
of who controls that objective.
Yeah,
you get 8 points. Good job.
Yeah, and I mean that can add up over time, especially considering I was threatening 2 of them. If I successfully terraform both those, that's 16 points I just scored on primary easily. I did not, and I did it purposely. So he then moved up because he's like, okay, not only does he need to get me off the objective, but he needs to now take control of the objective. And what's one beautiful strat that I have with Canoptic Court? What happens when you get close to me?
You move away from me.
Exactly. So as soon as they move away, as soon as the Tyranids made their push and got in there and got on the objective, and I made sure the Death Leaper moved up, I didn't move away. When the Norn moved up, that's when I moved away. So now I'm out of charge range. If you try and charge me and you succeed, you're coming off that objective. So he just pushed a whole bunch of other stuff on the objective. Now I lost my terraform. I didn't control the objective into my turn, but now the wraiths were in a counterattack position to be able to move in there on that side. On the other side, I left the wraiths there, but I had a little bit of cover to give me some terrain just for any AP1 to stick on the 3-ups, yada, 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 all that stuff. But my favorite point was when he looked over and he was starting to fight my left flank, and he looks at it and he goes, all right, so I think I need to hit the wraiths. I'm not worried about these spiders. They're not a problem. He's like, I'm not worried about the spiders. They're not going to do anything to me. And I just looked over, I looked at Lei, and I was like, famous last words. And sure enough,
just those little spiders, no big deal.
Sure enough, at the end of the game, he's looking at these darn spiders. Oh my gosh. I'm like, I'm sorry. Didn't you say earlier that you didn't need to worry about the spiders? Like, shut up, in a friendly tone of like, shut up, I don't want to hear it. But more or less, it was the fact that I was able to, I laid the trap and sprung it. He had to overcommit to get my units off the objectives, or I was going to get heavy primary. And when he overcommitted, I was able to then jump forward and just absolutely crush everything at center. I had one Doomstalker that kind of scuttled around. It wasn't really in the best of positions, but it was able to eventually get eyes on that center objective. But the 2 on my left flank were able to move out and just hammer everything on that side of the field. That I took the left flank wholeheartedly, and now was able to move everything to center where I was already battling. I had wraiths in there which were not getting moved, and eventually we're able to just swarm in there with the scarabs and the spiders and just clear that middle objective. Eventually he called it quits. So we just scored out the game. I was a polite player, and I said, okay, if you're going to call this quits, then I'm just basically going to take a knee on these objectives. And we flipped cards. I flipped the cards and said, okay, I have to do this. Can I do this? Yes. Can I not do this? And just kind of shuffled through for the points I needed to score. Was polite about it. Let him score out his points that he could potentially do. I wasn't going in there and just smashing everything. I didn't want to. There was no reason at that point. And I ended up scoring 96. So again, I scored 96. I didn't need to be a jerk about it. He walked away with 64. Andrew was my opponent, good guy, and gave me some aspects into what we're looking at for the future of Tyranids, which we'll talk about when we do the data slate. So I was able to see, because he was discussing some of the stuff of like where the changes are going to be, where things are going to hit. So very interested to see. I do like the big bugs for Tyranids, so it's going to be nice to see that they got a nice little boost to them. I was able to see where those weaknesses really were in it. But the damage output is still very lacking for Tyranids. It was...
Well, I mean, this is a weird tournament because we were playing with the new missions, but not the data slate and the points updates, and Tyranid's got some stuff in there. So you were the Tyranid army is different now.
Needless to say that Norn Emissary just did not impress me. It really did not impress me. Like, just its all around damage profile and everything, just I was not overly impressed by. I was expecting it to have a lot, even though they're getting point boosts and ability boosts and everything like that. I still was really not impressed with its general profile, especially out of the box. Like new like that, new model, wasn't that impressive. So, but yeah, no, was able to take that W. Lane took his W, and then we got randomly paired.
And we met on the field of battle.
Well, we got randomly paired. It took 7 tries for random pairings for them to get that. I went from table. I started round 2 on table 4, and they said, "Oh wait, we're to try this again," because they were trying to get random pairings to work because they didn't want it to be just
Point
straight
stack,
down
yeah.
the middle points. Like it was winners play winners, losers play losers, which I like that. I do like that for the first couple. I think that's how it should be for the first 3 rounds of any tournament. This was an RTT, so only 3 rounds. But even for GTs, I think the first 3 rounds should be random in general, just because somebody who did well their first round and played against someone maybe not of the caliber, then goes and gets smacked by somebody, and then that ends their weekend because they get someone higher caliber, gives them a chance to possibly get someone else who had a lighter game. Not always the best odds, but hey, it's there. So I do like the random pairings. But yeah, I started at table 4, then went to table 5, then went to 6, then 7, then 8, then 9, then back to 8, which is where we settled. And after I was supposed to play Nico 5 of those games in a row, or all of them basically, then end up playing Mr. Lane. And this is the first time we've ever met on the field of battle. First tournament game.
Surely not the last, but definitely the first.
So the biggest highlights from our game, my comments on the biggest highlights before we get into the back and forth of the actual battle was the fact that our deployment was mostly us grunting at each other. Like, huh? Yeah, okay. Yeah, yeah. And just
we know each other's armies. We know what we're doing. We play every week.
It's just like, that's it. Okay, okay.
No need to say what we're doing when we start rolling dice. We know what it's all about.
I don't even think we took turns deploying. I think we just put our armies out there pretty much. Yeah, basically.
But yeah, what mission was it? I don't remember.
Ooh, that's a very good question.
Oh, it was boring. It's vanilla. It was taking hold.
Oh yeah. We just had the hold 1, hold 2, hold 3, 5 points a piece. Yeah, or just 5 points per. Yeah. So that was it was basic for that. And then our secondary mission didn't apply to us because neither of us had battle line units.
No, yeah, it was one of the battle lines can rapid ingress or something. Turn 1, was that the one? Or
I don't remember which one it was, but I know it was something.
Neither of us had battle lines, so it didn't matter. So,
oh no, it was you can complete actions and still shoot.
Oh right.
That's what it was.
If you're battle line,
yeah. Which again, neither of us had battle line. So again, like going into this, like Lane has mentioned a couple times, the data sheets and the points were updated. This was the last hurrah for my Canoptic Tomb Sentinels. So now I'll have to figure something else out for him. But Lane and I, many matchups. My proud moment of this was the fact that I had Lane silent on the table for such a long time. Just not angry, not upset, just focused. 40K.
Serious business, guys. So, serious business.
So, how do we talk about this? How do we recap?
It was just probably just MVPs of it because it wasn't like I don't think there were any singular standout moments or anything. We just fought over it. It was a super close game. You had 77, I had 70.
The standout moment was you were able to pick up both squads of Wraiths by the 3rd turn.
Yeah, I thought because not having the crypto thralls in there makes a difference, and my ability to just blend things,
and also the fact that Lane continues his trend of not being able to pass battle shocks.
Yeah, if you didn't have the Psychomancers in there, I probably would have won the game. I think it was a 20-point swing.
Psychomancers were my MVP as they just stop Lane all over the place,
shut me down from scoring, from holding objectives and just allowing you to score. If you need a storm hostile objective, you make me take a battle shock. I fail it for you, and then you just walk on the objective. Doesn't matter if I have stuff on there or not.
Yeah.
I can't fire Overwatch. I can't do armor or contempt, so it takes away defensive abilities. I failed battle shock. I think I probably had to make 12 battle shocks throughout the game. Ones you made me take, and then ones because they were the below half strength. And I failed 10 of them. I think I passed one or two. It's a surprise, like, oh gosh, I passed one. But so it definitely made all the difference because you had 2 psychomancers in this list, and so that twice per turn you could just point at something and say take a battle shock, and I obliged by failing almost all of them.
Yep. Yeah. He just rolls the dice, goes, "Hey, I failed." I think there was one that you rolled, and you're like, "Hey, oh wait, no, I passed it," and it was like you were like, "Oh wow."
Yeah, at one point I was just like fail. I'm just rolling through them because they're all going to fail. Like, why do I even have to look at the dice? Like, I can just call it. Yeah, it's probably a 2 or 3 or something. So,
but for the most part of the game, they actually get the gameplay. I moved out. Lane went first. You went first, I believe.
Yeah, I think
yes. So Lane was able to lead and take that going first. Not a whole lot on turn 1. Was same for mine. I moved out. I took the 2 objectives, the left flank and center. I took those. It was table quarters was our deployment. So I took my left side long ways from him. I took the center and I just held those at the beginning. Lane came in on 2 with 2 of the drop pods instead of 3, just 2 of them. Dropped in there, brought the Centurions down, and just started hammering at the Wraiths.
Yeah, the terrain was pretty dense. Like, I didn't have good spots to bring the drop pods in. So I only brought 2 of them in. But yeah, I was able to pick up 1 Wraith squad in turn 2 and picked up the other one in turn 3. Yeah, the shooting, the Dev Watch does its thing for that one turn. It kills things that are hard to kill. So they did it.
I got hammered pretty hard, and actually one of the big things that was also getting me into this game, kept me in the game, is something that I don't typically do, but I was able to and needed to, and that was moving the Doomstalkers to the center of the field.
Yeah.
I got the Doomstalkers out there, I rushed out there, I tank shocked with a Doomstalker into the Centurions, and was able to get those on objectives and keep scoring points and keep the points going and just make sure that I was constantly having that momentum, because I had 1 turn that I dropped you to a 5 on primary because of the Scarabs.
I failed the battle shock, yeah,
and the Scarabs, and I got the Scarabs on you.
Yeah, I think your MVP of the game was probably the Scarabs. I mean, the Doomstalkers, of course, did more damage, but it's so cheap for a squad of 6 Scarabs. And in Canoptic Court, when they're rerolling all their hits, to be clear, each Scarab base has 6 attacks, and they have lethals on 6s. And with full rerolls, means you just fish for 6s. But if you charge in a squad of 6 of them, one of them explodes and does D3 mortals, and then the other 5 swing. That's 30 swings. So you're going to average around like 9 wounds with just the lethals,
right?
Which is a big deal. He charged them into a tank. 2 squads into my tank that had 7 wounds yet left, exploded 2, and then finished it off with 1 squad in combat. Again, the Scarabs punched like 3 or 4 wounds off of my Gladiator Reaper because he just did 9 or 10 wounds, and it's a 3-up save, so I failed enough to take the last 3 or 4 wounds off. So
I've been really happy with the Scarabs lately. It's taken a while to figure them out because it's different than it was last edition, where last edition it was put a 5-up invuln on them and let them take on the world.
Yeah.
Now I have to be a little more cautious with them. But now that I've gotten the reps in and seeing them, they're such a great utility.
Until you really understand, they have the best impact mortals rule because it's not an impact mortals rule. A lot of close combat type units have impact mortals like assault intercessors, jump packs. But Scarabs, they can sacrifice 1 base and blow 1 up and do D3, but it's at the start of the fight phase. So it doesn't matter if you charged them or they charged you, or it's the second round of combat, you're tied up with them. They just blow up over and over again. And of course, because they're Necrons, they heal and bring them back. They reanimate them too. So
we do.
Yeah, like I shot 1 squad. You got 1 squad into my deployment zone to do an action, but you can't do any more now that we're playing with the post data slate. But I shot the squad of Scarabs down, and there's 1 left with 1 wound, and I had to charge it. So I charge it, and of course, start of the fight phase, you blow it up, kill 1.5 Marines, the base dies, but that's ridiculous for a squad of Scarabs to pick up 1.5
I knew the squad was going to be gone, so I might as well try and take something with me before I go.
I mean, if 1 base blows up, that takes out typically more than its points value in whatever you're going into, unless it's Gretchen or something. But if you do pick up one Space Marine, that's more than the points value of one base of Scarabs.
Yeah, because it's like 10
It's
points.
an incredible trade piece, and just even though they're low toughness, it's still 4 wounds. It still takes a lot of attacks to chew through them. So I definitely think they were a big deal. The Psychomancers are really strong too. We know that the Canoptic the Doomstalkers are strong. We know the Wraiths are strong. We know you love the Spiders, but those two are kind of new. Yeah, everything in the list was doing really well. So
everything did synergize and clicked really well. I think that my attack on your right flank was probably a poor decision. I know I misplayed north where you had the Centurions you dropped in. The Centurions were in a excellent position. You dropped them onto that leftmost objective that I was able to control. You got close to it, but not on it. And you had a really strong position to be able to just keep guns going into me. And I made the misplay that after you overwatched, I could have then moved my Wraiths and done some mortal wounds and charged into, and I just completely flubbed that one. And I did, in fact, end up charging in there, but that was a misplay. I think I should have focused more onto that left flank. I did also, my Psychomancer was a little out of position to be able to maintain the Scarab OC1, which is something I definitely need to watch in the future and make sure I have those in position. But I'm going to have to also, I'm looking into, so with the nice thing is most of that onboard part of the list isn't changing. The only thing that I'm going to be changing is dropping, obviously, the Sentinels out. And my first thing is initially I'm thinking like we've discussed it, I'm thinking double Hexmark, deep striking unit with lone op, and just being able to do some of these missions, which, like we said, we'll talk about some of those cards. And that's kind of what I felt like with those, is being able to have a couple of units to do that. I feel like that's the route I want to go. Now, the Psychos did well for some of those objectives, some of those secondaries to be able to do, especially because my ability is not a shooting attack. So I can do that and still do these actions. So the Psychos are really good for actions as well, too. But I'm going to look into them.
They slap surprisingly hard.
Randomly, AP3, 3 damage weapon.
One shot with his shooting attack, which is AP3, 3 damage.
And then in combat.
2 combat. But re-rolling all the hits, it's just,
because he's a Cryptek,
they just pick up, light to medium infantry. Your elite infantry, just punch through them. 3 damage for no particular reason. So yeah, they've been key, and they're still only 55 points, right?
But at the end of the day, final score: Necron 77, Deathwatch 70. Super tight game. Super tight game. I play around, I taunt, but super, super tight game.
No, yeah, obviously.
A lot of things little things that could have gone the other way.
I passed 2 battle shocks, and suddenly it's a different game.
You can, past battle shocks? Can you do that?
I hear that it's down to the dice. So
allegedly.
But so that was round 2. And then round 3, I played into Garrett and his Blood Angels. He was doing Blood Angels, so using the Blood Angels adaptation. I forget what it's called. Sons of Sanguinius, probably. And he had a 10-man Terminator brick, Librarian Dreadnought to throw things around. I love that he had 2 of the company hero squads with captains in Impulsors. It's just a fun. I like the company hero squads; they're cool. So he had them out there, and with the Blood Angels, their attacks just get better because you got both a captain and a company champion in those. So I thought it was a cool list. He had a 10-man brick of Vanguard vets with Storm Shields, so they had the 4-up embalm. Some jump back intercessors, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. So the thing is, he got a couple 10-man squads, and those Devastator Centurions are so good at chewing through 10-man squads of Marines, just because the missiles are strength 9 and they're T4, so they're wounding you on 2s, and they're D3 blast. So if you shoot at a 10-man squad, it's 6 D3 plus 12. And it just adds up.
63.
Yeah, I mean, he had a couple big key units, and I, with my dev watch, I love that. He has a 10-man Terminator brick. I'm like, cool. They all had Thunderhammer Storm Shield, so they're all 4 wounds apiece. I still just dropped in on my tome turn and chewed through them with just devastating wounds. So so that ended up being a pretty powerful win there, just because I was able to control just killing him. I think I did table him, or got very close to tabling him.
Now, one thing I do want to comment on, I didn't mention this to you, and I just remember this right now. I added up the scores afterwards, and the guy, the gentleman who finished in second place, finished with 252 battle points. You finished with 258 battle points.
Yeah.
But the L does, the win and
Yeah,
loss does matter.
I had two wins that are over 90 points, and then my loss was only 70.
Yeah, so
like
you had a
I didn't take a bad beat.
extremely high score for that.
Yeah.
Now, mine, I had played into Gavin.
Oh, I do want to say he did steal my home objective with one of those squads of the company heroes with the captain. So they were able to move up in the impulsor and get in there and wreck my my captain with the infiltrators holding it. So it was pretty cool that he was able to do that. I think it was a fun tech piece. I don't know how super strong it is, but it was definitely a lot of fun. It was a fun game, so we had a good time. But, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. You're good. Because mine is actually much shorter for how it went, because it was not as epic of a conclusion for the tournament, but hey, this was where the win was. So I ended up playing Gavin in his Death Guard for the final round. And his Death Guard, he had the PBCs, Plague Burst Crawlers, and Mortarion were the big talking points of the list, and a bunch of Terminators. We discussed it afterwards, and I think the biggest thing is that Gavin went after, he spread out way too thin and was going after secondaries way too early. And in this mission, it was one of it was the Hammer and Anvil step deployment. So we had the small one where you're 12 inches out, and then the other one's 20 inches out, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 12.
So
20.
the point where you're 12 inches out, I positioned 2 of my Doomstalkers, and with the full intent of moving them out towards the first objective marker. And as long as I was on that one, then I could see the other 2 objective markers and just fire all day. Well, he separated, and he had some Plague Marines that were kind of getting into there, but there was such an open, long gap that it took to get through there. I was able to just get done and do some damage, slow down the Plague Marines, and take them on my turn. That the Doomstalkers were able to sit there on that objective and shoot for 5 turns straight, and just pegging Mortarion, pegging everything over there. I got Mortarion down to I got him down to 7 wounds, and then I charged him with both squads of Wraiths. And it was literally, I knew I wasn't going to take him down with the Wraiths, but because I had him on that furthest most objective and just wrapped around it and everything, he couldn't get anything past me. Mm-hmm. So I was able to just hit those objectives, score all those points. He was spread out so thin. I picked up all the little chaff that was on the outside, so it was just this big bulky portion left and the PVCs in the back. And I had free reign to just score out all the points across the board.
Yeah, Death Guard, they're one of their buffs is their high toughness. But with strength 14 on the Doomstalkers, doesn't care. It doesn't care. Oh, your Terminators are T6.
Is.
Okay, he's still wounding you on 2s with the strength 14 gun. So, yeah, definitely. And I don't think he probably didn't have very much damage output into you, I'd imagine. Maybe in combat.
Yes. Range, I mean, the Plague Burst Crawlers were doing pretty decent. The biggest highlight from that was this is one of the first opportunities I've got to do this. So the Plague Marines got into me, and I went into him with both squads of Scarabs. I did a little bit of damage. He slapped back and left me with 1 Scarab in each squad. My turn came, and I was able to reanimate 1 Scarab back into both of my squads. So I was now at 2 Scarabs. So then, much like you said, Lane, I blew those guys up, did the damage. And then I also had spiders that charged in, tank shocked, and then I didn't even make it to the combat step at that point. Literally, it was all just the pre-fight phase that I just cleared the Plague Marines entirely. Mm-hmm. So now we're in a position that going into the next turn, I have 2 single Scarab bases for different units, 1 little base left. But I had 2 squads of spiders that were in 6 inches of those Scarabs, which meant first spider says, I'm going to put 2 back. Second spider squad says, I'm going to put 2 back.
You put 1 squad of Scarabs back for each spider in the squad.
You put 1 model back. Yeah.
So 2 spiders puts back 2 Scarabs. And then you also reanimate.
So suddenly that squad of 1 spiders, or a Scarab, went all the way back up to 6 and went after a Plague Burst Crawler. It was all right, let's go. Let's just keep going. I love it. Yeah, that was great. That was a lot of fun. That was the first time I actually gotten that to trigger. At the end of it all, though, there was one point in time where he didn't. I was courteous about this, and I'm going to toot my own horn with this one because this was definitely a respect play. I explained how the Doomstalkers function and how strong their Overwatch was, and he was questionable about it. And he placed his Terminator. He deep struck 6 Terminators in. So I overwatched the Terminators. And at the end of my Overwatch, I rolled 4 shots, then +1 because there was 6 of them there, +1 because of what it was, hitting on 5s, re-rolling, rolled a wound, 5, I think it was like 5 wounds, and then he failed 4 of them, 3 or 4 of them, and I just cut the squad in half right there. And you could see the look of defeat on his face where he's like, I didn't realize that. I'm like, you know what? The Doomstalkers are a tough thing. Until you see that Overwatch hit
you can tell somebody, but sometimes you just have to show them.
Yeah. So I told him, I was like, do you want to try that again? Do you want to put them somewhere else? And I gave him the mulligan on that one because it's difficult. And at that point, I had 2 Doomstalkers in position. And once those 2 Doomstalkers were in position, I had just scored 13 because that one we had, if you held your home, the primary was, if you held your home objective, it was worth 3 points. And then every objective you held outside was worth 5 points. But if you didn't hold your home objective, all the objectives you held were only worth 3 points.
Yeah, it's linchpin. Hold your home field objective to get extra points on the ones in no man's.
I was on the cycle. I was on a 2-turn cycle of 13 points. So I was already up 26 points in secondaries. He was a good guy. I did not want to ruin his tournament experience. I wanted to let him play the game still and have fun with it. And just by something like that. And I wasn't trying to get him with a gotcha moment on that. And I felt bad for it. So I was like, listen, now you've seen how that dice rolls out. Okay, let's fix that. Let's adjust that. Let's play this game out. Because it wasn't going to, at that point, it wasn't going to really tip the scale in the favor. Because of the fact that I at this point, I'd already kicked him out of center. Like I had controlled the center. I controlled so much of the no man's land objectives. I had Canoptic control all the way over there. And then I dropped the Sentinels in, and they did. And this is another time where I say Hexmarks might be able to do it because realistically, all tournament long, the Sentinels did 0 damage. All tournament long. Like I moved them up.
They did some work into me.
No, I moved the one into you, and you shot and killed. You shot and basically killed it on the Overwatch with your Eradicators.
And I was down to 1 wound,
and then
he charged in,
and then
I had to finish it off in combat with Eradicators,
and you did wholeheartedly.
And I charged up the so excited that the apothecary charged up to his 9 OC, but then he failed his battle shocks the next turn.
Well, yeah, they did really no damage, so it wasn't like it's like, oh man, I'm losing this damage output. So going into something like the Hexmarks, as long as it's a deep strike agent, I think that's where that spot needs to be. I should be okay. Softer, but still.
Because in our game, going back to our game, you at one point used one of those Sentinels to just deep strike and do an action in a corner, which is an expensive unit to do that with. So you're probably better off doing that with Hexmark.
I mean, I have no choice, not because I lose my Sentinels.
I forgot something about my game against my round 3 opponent. I thought he was going to beat me because I was killing the heck out of him, but he was outscoring me primaries, of course, because his Blood Angels all over the table. But guess what, guys? The Linchpin, the primary mission we played, has no cap on the number of points you score for primary. So my final turn, I scored 23 points because I had all 4 objectives on the table, 5 apiece, and I had my home field objective.
And that's how you make a comeback.
That's how you bring it on back. We checked the card a couple times, and yep, there's no cap on number of primaries. So he was ahead of me early on. I swung back with a hard couple last turns, but yeah, keep an eye on that for Linchpin. No cap on scoring for primaries per turn. So.
But needless to say, by game, I finished. We finished. I ended up scoring 100 points on that one, and that was enough. That was 27 points more over, I think, than enough to take first place.
Yeah. Who was next? Nathan was
Nathan. Yeah. And so I was able to take first. Actually, I still have the sheet. I can throw that up there of the scoring and everything for that. So that was nice. Went in there, was very happy with that. Got really good amount of store credit out of that one. And for my spoils, I got Wraiths so that I can switch out the old pewter bodies. I got 2 spiders, so I need 1 more spider so I can switch over to all the new sculpts. And picked up something else from another little secret project I've been working on. Hopefully get it on the channel here soon. Secret projects. And and then I'm going to go get cards this week from them and hopefully pick up couple more models and clear out the rest of my credit. I still got like $100 in store credit up there. So that was nice. And then Lane, you picked up you got a new codex to bring some more action on the channel.
Yeah, I mean, I've been playing around with Iron Hands lists, so I wanted to have the Blood Angel, or not the Blood Angel, the Dark Angels book, just because I think in the new missions, CPs are going to be very important because now you can use the new order strat as many times as you want throughout the game. So being able to cycle through secondaries, I think is going to be very important. So for my Iron Hands, I wanted to have that CP generation of having Azrael from the Dark Angels in there. I don't know if I even need the Dark Shroud, but I wanted to have the book anyway, so at least I could be all official and have the code and have the rules on my app and everything. Because I think, like I said, CP generation is going to be a big deal.
Yeah, I have thought about picking up the Tyranid book for the similar thing, just to get that code, because I have some NIDs. Not a lot of the competitive side of things, but I do have Tyranids, and I've considered, dusting them off, cleaning them off, and at least try and put some stuff out there. But with what I have a lot, but I don't know how necessarily efficient of a list I could put together with them. So I'd have to look at the book. It's like in the back and forth, and then But I had other things I got to work on too. So it's kind of one of those things. If I still kind of in my heart of hearts at some point want to pick up the Tyranid book so I can get the NIDs on the channel. So, and especially with their changes, maybe throw them down a little bit. But there's other things I needed to clean up with these armies first and get some stuff cleaned up, especially after now getting a new base scheme with the Wraiths, which look forward to now getting that all cleaned up with the Tyranids and our Tyranids with the Necrons and all that stuff. I did make the joke of my first game was bugs on bugs, bio bugs versus cybernetic bugs, because I have a lot of bugs.
A lot of critters in that list.
Spiders. I love my spiders. Oh man, and spiders still did great. Spiders did awesome. I mean, they building scarabs and punching Death Guard in the face and shooting Death Watch Marines and oh man, all day, every day. How did you feel after this? There's not very much of a change to your list moving forward, is there?
No, Death Watch was the lowest performing army in the game, so obviously my list went up 10 points for some reason because the Gladiator Reaper went up 10 points. No, I could just change one Assault Intercessor squad with jump packs into something else and save me 5 points. Maybe another. I kind of like the Lieutenant with combi weapon, the Lone Op Lieutenant, just for his ability to control the board a little bit and to be. Kind of out there in the open without getting shot with his lone op. So we'll see. But yeah, there's not a lot I have to change with that list. Although I want to try out some new stuff with Death Watch because we have some interesting changes to some of the rules and things. So
I'd like to initially. I want to try with the double hex market first. I mean, I'm not against possibly having to drop one of the Psychomancers just to get some extra points to get some more efficiency. There's not a lot of deep strike agents out of Necrons that give you that strong. That give me the strong high damage, high AP that I'd like to see, which was kind of where the Sentinels were. But the Sentinels were only strength 10 and 2 damage.
They're excellent into like infantry, light infantry, elite infantry, Marines, aggressors, that kind of thing. Because you get that the damage and the high enough AP when something's the fact that their AP3 is pretty solid when something's on an objective.
But see, and that's one of the things I'm wondering now with the Hexmark 2, and it's because of the Hexmark being a smaller model. Like, granted, this does put me into a lot of characters for possible assassinate, but then what's your other fixed secondary? I don't necessarily know how bad that's going to be. And my other characters are still kind of hard to kill. Like I don't throw the Psychomancers out there, and the Tech Marines are buried within Wraiths. So that's something that I want to test it to see how that works out. But then, like you said, there's a lot. Like I fixed my Orc list. I fixed another list, that the secret list. I have the Necron kind of sort of build. AdMech, I'm definitely curious to see some of that stuff because we've been talking about how that all affects things, and definitely curious to see what I can put together with AdMech now in the cybernetic cohort. And the other one's Grey Knights. I don't know how I want to go about it yet with some of the changes, especially with some of the cards. With some of the cards and some of the actions and stuff like that, it makes me start to go like I could still keep the 5 DK. But I almost feel like I might need to go into something for those actions, like the interceptors that can shoot and move, and extra movement like that, or strike marines that have sticky objectives. There's a couple things I need to think about before finalizing on that. So, well, any closing thoughts on that tournament?
No, it's a good time as always. It's a very, very close game between you. Yeah, okay, there you go. There it is.
Wait for it, wait for it. That's right. That's right.
But no, had a great time. Can't wait for the next one. They are doing one on the 20th of next month, RTT on July 20th. And then in August, they are doing a GT. So if you're in the Cleveland area looking for a GT, Battlegrounds and Board Games going to do one in August. So
we'll have to see how my schedule looks like for that, because that's right around when the twins are going to be born. So, yep, having 2 baby girls. Super excited. If you guys haven't seen already or heard in other things, having 2 baby girls. So that's right around that time frame. So, and then, man, it is getting tough on my wife right now. Hoo-hoo-wee. Yeah. I mean, she's carrying 2 babies right now. She is, and I have 3 kids already too. Yeah. So, yeah, she needs a little bit of help. This is not the wife telling me, no, you can't play. This is the husband in me saying, no, you shouldn't go play. So
glad you got your win in now.
Exactly.
You're gonna there's gonna be a time period where you can't get out on Saturdays.
But a lot of the guys that we've been talking about too are interested in getting, now with my job change, are interested in getting out here and getting on the channel. Now that we have the title belt set up and everything like that, we have a lot to start working for to building towards some more content and some drama, some 40K drama for the belt,
some
championship. Yeah, the drama. So, all right. Well, on that note, as always, thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you again soon.